Hey everyone, welcome to Dreadnought Mondays. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're joined by Dave Kramer. Dave, thanks for taking the time to be here today, and we appreciate you being on. If you wouldn't mind taking a minute to introduce who you are and what you do and what you're about.
Great, thank you. My name is Dave Kramer. I'm a serial small business owner. I've started many different businesses over the last 30 years. A recent one that I'm still running is a CRM software, but I also have just started up davetalksbusiness.com, where I help and coach small business owners so that they can be more effective in their business.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we see all the CRM and the blog and the sales things right behind you there. We were talking a little bit off camera here. One of the things that people dread about Mondays or even Tuesdays and Wednesdays is the lack of organization within their organization. Would you mind going into that and excuse me, just giving your thoughts and your experience on that?
Yeah, so I've definitely been there where I've come in on Monday and my team is all sitting around with nothing to do. And that is just a time suck. And it's also very costly to the company to have a bunch of employees that aren't actually being productive. And what I found is that employees and staff, they typically like to have very specific instructions on what they should be doing. And if you can give them a nice area where they know they're allowed to play in, some kind of a guideline, then they know that they're free to go ahead and be productive within those guidelines. And so what I've been doing is over the weekend, I will make lists for each of my staff. So as things pop in my head, even on Fridays, what I'd like them to accomplish on Monday, I will make these lists and I will make sure that these lists are available for them Monday morning. Typically, I don't arrive at the office right in the morning because there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the mornings that the staff can take care of on their own. There's usually a lot of voicemails to check and emails to check and things like that. So I like to come in about an hour later and have them give me a rundown on, where everything is at. That allows me to take that time to go to the bank or get my hair cut or different things that I need to do. So I come in, get that information from them, and then I can give them their lists. And then that way I don't have to be personally involved in every little thing that they're doing, micromanaging them and trying to keep them busy, keep them occupied. And it's nice because they know when they have that list that they can go back and take care of something else and then go back to their list if they need something to do. Hey there.
Sorry, hold
Who's
on
that?
1 second here. This is my son. All right, 1 second.
So I think it's really important so that your team has guidelines of what you expect of them each day. And then what's really nice about having that list is that they can go back and check off those items one by one, and they know that they've accomplished something for that day, as opposed to just coming in and doing mundane activities and then leaving and not really realizing that they accomplished something.
I like that. It's it could be you mentioned that list. It could be like you said, if you use it correctly, a sense of accomplishment versus did you kind of thing. I think that has a major impact just on that little twist of approach. How do you find, or how does it work? What have you found with people that you mentioned you come in a little bit later. I know I'm not like an early morning person kind of thing, but I like having that flexibility where I'll go spend a couple hours with my kid in the afternoon. You just saw him pop in here, but I'll be on the computer doing stuff after he's gone to bed kind of thing, so there's that flexibility. How do you find that and make that work in your office or your team and stuff, and with yourself, on business and personal level, of having that flexibility? And then also you mentioned, giving people some guidelines, but you use the word play within those parameters, so they have that flexibility within those parameters. However you find that has impacted the operation and the efficiency of your team.
Yeah, I think we live in a very different business landscape than 50 years ago, where people would come in and punch a clock and then they would sit and they would perform the same activity over and over again. And they're really, the line between work and play is now very blurred, even for staff. And, you know, you can look at that as a negative or you can look at that as a positive. So I've heard some small business owners complain that their staff is using their cell phone, you know, to text message their girlfriend or something during office hours. And so that's considered a negative. But on the flip side, they have no problem texting them when they're out of the office to ask them where they left a piece of paper. So I think it's nice that we have that ability to communicate 24/7. And so by using that myself, when I'm out not necessarily doing business, but a thought pops into my head about business, or, oh, I need to remind this person to do something, I just will pull out my phone and I will go to the task manager and I will just send a task right there. And what's nice is that they get an alert on their phone that I sent them a task. So it could be on a Saturday afternoon. They're going to know that there's a task that's waiting for them when they clock back into work. And it's interesting. I didn't realize this would be a thing, but I've interviewed some of my staff and they told me that when they had previous jobs, they were nervous coming into work on Mondays because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know what was going to be thrown at them. And they told me that they actually like having those tasks come into them on Saturdays or Sundays or late at night, where they can pull that up before they come into work and they can kind of drive to work knowing what they're going to be encountering when they walk in the door. It's funny because I never thought of that myself. I never thought of the apprehensiveness of walking into a job not knowing what you're going to be working on, and that there would be a sense of calm that would come from knowing what the day's activities are going to look like.
Exactly. You know, and I find that with myself and many others that I work with. Excuse me. And then also having that flexibility, you know, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with my son for a couple hours, you know, or I can pop in and out of the office and help him with his schoolwork or play a video game for 15 minutes with him or whatever, you know, but then I'm right back on it. It gives me that control, if you will, but it also, I don't feel so much as it's a burden, a grind, um, overbearing tasks. You know, somebody's breathing down my neck or whatever. You know, as long as I perform what I said I was going to do and do things that tasks at hand and stuff. You know, within the deadlines and stuff, and then having that flexibility helps improve morale, which helps improve in performance and all of that kind of snowballs.
Right. And like you said, it doesn't, who says that you can only be effective working from the hours of 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? You know, you mentioned earlier that you like to do some work at night when your kid goes to sleep. That makes sense to me, right? Why not spend those waking hours with your son when he's awake or help him with his homework at 3 o'clock? You know, who says that you have to be at work and he has to be doing his homework at 3 o'clock? If you can adjust your schedule so you get more of that quality time.
Absolutely. And for me, that's far more rewarding and, you know, bigger payoff than any paycheck.
Exactly.
You know, you can put
100%.
as many zeros and ones as you want, but that quality time with my family is still more valuable to me.
Yeah.
So,
And that's really the promise of solopreneurship or entrepreneurship, is that you will have control of your life, right? But so often we find small business owners getting buried by their own business and all the responsibilities that come with it. And I've kind of boiled that down and looked at it really closely. I've coached over 1,000 small businesses in the last few years, and I've seen some patterns. And what I've found is the people who are getting buried are typically the ones who don't have organization in place for their business. And there's organization both on how you package and deliver your products or services. So you can create standard operating procedures for your team to implement and to produce that product or service consistently over time so that every one of your customers receives the same type of product or service because it was executed in that specific order, that recipe that you created originally. I like to compare it to KFC. You know, the Colonel created the original 7 spices and herbs recipe for chicken, but now there's locations all over the United States, all over the world that are producing that chicken. He doesn't have to fly from here to the East Coast to the West Coast to prepare the chicken. He's got people that are doing it for him based on that recipe. So that's how you can do it on the delivery side. But then internally, you know, with your payroll or any other type of activities that you do within internally in the company, those can also be organized. That includes, like, you know, payroll and accounting, different things that you have to do to keep your business running. Those can be organized and systematized as well, so that you're not playing whack-a-mole when you're running your business.
Yeah. And that's not to say that things won't pop up and you'll have fires to put out and things like that, but
Of course.
you know, but you can certainly systemize many things a lot more than we were able to even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and from that same device that you just sent a text from, you know,
Yeah.
you can do so many things in 15 minutes on your phone that was.
I think the key there is to make sure that you are using the technology and you're not allowing the technology to use you. So every phone has an on and off switch, and you can turn it off. So if you know, who's in control, right? Are you in control, or is the technology in control of you? Or are the people who are trying to text you in control of you and you're subject to their every beck and call? That's not how I run my business. I have people in place so that my customers are taken care of during business hours. And that does not necessitate that I have to be answering my phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So drawing those lines, I think, is really important. We have this technology. We can use it to our advantage, but we don't need to allow it to use us.
I like how you put that. You know, and it's easy to let that start to use you. You know, it's easy to get carried away. Oh, just one more thing, or one more post. So, you know, somebody liked this or somebody text this kind of thing. You know, it's so easy to, oh crap, now it's 5 hours later.
Right. Well, the other thing to think about is that never before in human history have we had access to the sum of the entire world's knowledge in the palm of our hand. That is incredible. Can you imagine if you were a business owner 50 years ago and somebody from the future came and gave you a device like this with all that information? Can you imagine how far ahead your business would be from all your competitors? This is an incredible advantage. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of small business owners really taking full use of that. And so an example I would say is, instead of taking a few hours to play Candy Crush or just like search around on social media aimlessly, if you have any problem, any goal that you want to achieve in your business or anything you're struggling with, you can Google it right here and you can read articles regarding that issue. You're not the only one that's experiencing that problem, trust me. And something else that I really like to do is you can search on YouTube for your business problems and find people who have experienced the same thing. You can go on Reddit and have people discussing those problems. You can download podcasts. And another thing I like to suggest about podcasts or YouTube, a lot of people tell me, well, I don't have time. I don't have the time to do all that. But what I suggest is you can listen to a podcast in your car while you're driving to the office. There are times when you're driving. Also, it's just about taking those little moments in your day. What about when you're in the grocery store waiting in line to check out? That's a great time. I mean, that's when I do it. I will find articles and I will educate myself on those things that I'm currently struggling with. One more thing I like to suggest is, when you have to train your staff, we all get tired of sounding like a broken record and saying the same things over and over again. And sometimes the way you're saying something is not resonating with that employee that you're talking to. So what I like to do is find YouTube videos that relate to that thing that I want to train that employee about, and I will task them to watch that video and then create a book report based on that video and speak that information back to me. And then an organic discussion evolves out of that. And instead of me saying, hey, I need you to improve on this, I think you should, try talking to the customers this way, or changing something about how they're operating. If they watch an educational video that's taken from a third party's perspective, and then they give that information back to me, it doesn't feel like it's me over their shoulder all the time. But in the end, I am directing the information that they're taking in.
Like that. And oftentimes that will lead for their own curiosity to explore more of those training videos and self-improvement type subjects and topics, beyond what you tasked them to do.
Yep. Oh, my favorite thing is when they challenge me. If they find a counterpoint, that's great. Let's talk about it. And I've learned things from my staff in the past. I don't know everything. And it's all about improving the company. It's improving the team. So if they find a point that's going to address the issue better than the one that I found, that's great. And that's part of what I was saying about give them, a fenced in boundary where they know they're allowed to play and explore so that they can find the solution that works best for them.
I like that. You said something that I really want to emphasize, is as an employer, a business owner, be open-minded to the possibility that your way may not be the best. It might have been best last year, but now it's not the best or whatever, or there's new tweaks here and stuff that you can constantly improve on. And that fence, I think that parameter fence is changing. It could start here, but then as they grow and stuff, that fence gets 100 times bigger or whatever that number is.
It should. I mean, you don't want to hire mindless automatons and, people to just take orders and just execute. I want to hire a team of individual thinkers so that they can actually run the business when I'm not there.
That kind of segues into another question I had with, if they find another point that they can counter with and stuff, and you said something, excuse me, a little bit earlier that kind of touched on this. Oh yeah, it was the phone, and if you handed a phone to a business owner from 50 years ago, and with you being a business owner coach and business coach and stuff, how do you help people that are in that strictly 9 to 5? This is how it's been done for the past 800 years. This is the best way. There's no changing it. I don't care what Google says. Maybe that's a little extreme, but I think they get the point. How do you help them in a way, per se, to open their eyes to see those possibilities of like, hey, there might be something a little easier, a little better for today?
Well, I love that challenging question. So the first thing I would think is I could be wrong, right? Maybe the 9 to 5 is perfect for that scenario. So here's how we're going to find out. What are your competitors doing? If you have competitors who are not following that mold and they're probably doing better revenue than you're doing, then you got to ask yourself, what are they doing different than what you're doing? Now, if you're the one doing the best revenue in the local area, then you probably have the winning formula, right? Because business is a formula or a recipe, and whoever has the best recipe is going to be on top. Because what's interesting about a true capitalist society is that the consumers vote with their dollars. They're going to vote for the best product or the best customer service or the best location, the best whatever matters to them, whatever is important. So at the end of the day, the way that we keep score is who's got the highest revenue during that period. So if I was challenged by somebody who says that I don't need to do a 9 to, or I do need to do a 9 to 5, I would say, let's look at the competitive landscape and let's see what everyone else is doing, because that's going to indicate what we can do differently, something that we should try so that we can increase our revenue as well.
I love that. See what's happening around them, see what the market, is doing. I love that. And, because oftentimes, like when Facebook come out, new technology, it took me a while to jump on board. So I can just kind of picture myself, if I'm a business owner 50 years ago and you hand me this phone, I'm like, I don't even know how to use it. I'm not interested.
Right.
You know,
Well, it's interesting. We saw that happen. I mean, it's still happening. We still meet people who have really old, antiquated computer systems or are still handwriting their invoices. It's still happening. But what we're seeing happen is that the competitors who are using technology to its fullest extent, they're doing better when it comes to business. Something that an analogy I've used in the past is those drills that you can use as a screw gun. If you were in the business of building houses, or let's say even building a deck, um, and you were doing it the old fashioned way with hammer and nails, it's going to take you a certain number of hours to build a deck of a certain size. So if you go and quote the homeowner for building a deck by pounding nails with a manual hammer, and then another guy comes along with a screw gun and he quotes it, but he can do it 10 times faster, then his cost of goods is going to be lower when it comes to labor, and he's going to be able to have a lower quote. So now, which quote do you think the homeowner is going to go with?
the
Maybe
lower
you
one.
Right. Maybe you've been pounding nails into wood for 50 years and you're an artisan in your craft and you're really good at what you do and you build the strongest decks. And this other guy, he's only been in business for 2 years and he's got a whole team of employees with screw guns in their hands. And maybe his product isn't as great, or maybe he doesn't have as much experience, but he can do the job much faster. He's providing that service that the market is wanting. You're going to find that you're going to have a harder time finding customers because your quotes are too high. And so that's just one example of how technology has changed even the construction industry. We have to grab onto the new technology and learn it as quickly as we can.
And that can apply to all across the field, as an employee, as a business owner, someone going to school, someone just starting out in their entrepreneurial careers in the fields. You're just be open-minded to what's available and use it as, to its fullest extent.
Yeah, I mean, even in the accounting industry, the accounting laws change year from year. Even attorneys, the laws are changing year over year. In the medical industry, new medical procedures are coming out all the time, and doctors have to keep up on that. It's called continuing education, and it applies to small businesses as well.
Thank you. And that's another example of open-mindedness. And when we say education, a lot of times the first thing that pops in our head is college. But, this is certainly not to knock college, but that may not necessarily be the case. Continuing education is learning about those new technologies, listening to self-improvement books and podcasts and YouTube videos. And continuing education could be as simple as YouTubing how to put a video on YouTube.
Yeah,
If it's improving yourself and you're learning about something, that's continuing education.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different channels.
So it's interesting on YouTube. There's a statistics area you can go in to check out how often you personally are on YouTube. And I average about 5 hours a day. Now, it doesn't mean that I have 5 free hours every day, but as I said, I'm listening to it when I'm driving. I've got different things going on when I'm cooking dinner. So I'm constantly filling my head with business related knowledge so that I can run a better business.
Absolutely. I'm doing the same thing when I'm washing dishes. I've got YouTube on different things and different topics, subjects, and oftentimes it's a repeat because as I learn something over here, this thing over here clicks better. So I go back to that. I'm like, that makes more sense. Then I go back to this, and that makes more sense. This podcast now. So
Yeah. One of the things I struggled with the most 10 years ago was interacting with my staff. I was just really, really bad at it. I treated them more like children than a team. And a lot of the education I got was from YouTube channels about learning how to work with your team and how to motivate people and how to be a leader. So if I can change, anybody can change.
And so funny how just those simple little tweaks can make a huge impact over time.
It's amazing. I mean, I literally I've watched several YouTube videos about college professors teaching in front of a college room. So I literally was getting a college education for that specific topic. And I mean, never before in the history of mankind have we had access to this information for free. We should be taking advantage of that.
Oh yeah, yeah, and another open mind thing that I've learned and stuff, and sometimes find myself denying, if you will, is because it's free, you don't give it the value that it deserves. You know, there's so many times that free content is as valuable, if not more, than stuff you pay hundreds or thousands of dollars for.
Yeah.
So that's something I've had to be careful with, you know, to at least be open-minded and consider the knowledge that it provides.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. Where can people find you if they wanted to connect with you?
You can go to my website, davetalksbusiness.com, or you can check out my YouTube channel where I give 10-minute videos teaching on all different things ranging in starting your own business and running a small business. And that is YouTube, Dave Talks Business.
Awesome. And we'll drop those links in the description with the video. And so be sure to go check it out and connect with Dave. And again, Dave, thanks for taking the time to be here. And everyone, thanks for taking the time to tune in, listen in, watch. And feel free to reach out to us and let us know how we can help you. Dread no Mondays.